Who? Starlord, man.
Guardians of the Galaxy 3 was released in May of 2023, and to coincide with it, Hasbro released several figures tying in with the movie in their Marvel Legends line. They produced most of the main team except for Gamora, and they also released figures of Adam Warlock, Kraglin, and Cosmo. And for the most part, that's all we've seen in terms of 6-inch action figures tying in with Guardians of the Galaxy 3, with the exception of Bandai's SH Figuarts, who recently came out with the Guardians of the Galaxy 3, Starlord and Rocket Raccoon. Now, Bandai has produced Guardians figures in the past. They've released a Starlord, a Rocket, and a Gamora, all tying in with Avengers Infinity War. But thus far, this is their only effort for Guardians of the Galaxy 3. Now, I skipped over the Legends because even though you can build a complete team, and I love the design of the uniforms from the movie, I'd love a full set of them. The Legends were just really off in terms of the color. They were super bright blue, and there wasn't a lot of paint going on with them. It was mainly just that bright blue plastic with some red. And so when Bandai solicited their Starlord and Rocket, I thought I'd go for that. I was a little hesitant because their last Starlord wasn't received very well. It was pretty undersized from what I understand, and the sculpt was really soft. Bandai can be spotty with the quality of their figures in general, but now I have them in hand, so let's see how they did. Taking a closer look at this guy, I'm actually pretty surprised. The costume designs for these Guardians movies are always complex, but Bandai's done a great job of capturing a lot of that complexity. Different textures and little subtle details that are sculpted in there, as well as some great paint work. Let's take a really close look at some of this sculpting work. On this shoulder alone here, you can see a few different mediums. That lighter blue looks like some kind of patterned fabric in itself, and then what looks like leather with the darker blue there under the red. On the side, you got this stripy pattern. On the back of the neck, we have what looks like more dark blue leather. And I just love the sculpt there. It really looks like leather. As well, it's a little glossier than the other blue sections. Looking at the legs, you have that stripy pattern toward the thigh area. Turning him around on the back of the knee, you have what looks like a softer cloth material, which on the costume is probably because that area is articulated with the knee and it needs to be softer. But they've captured it in the sculpt here. It looks great. They've also got a few textures with the boots. You can see on the front and back. And some excellent little paint details on all the buckles and things like that. And you can see on the wrist, there are a few different details there. Again, the dark blue looks kind of scratched. The light blue has a texture to it. And the red on top. They all come together for a really great look. And the gloves have a ton of detail too. Little stitching patterns. Again, it looks leathery and it has the appropriate amount of sheen to it. I'm really glad they used this design in the movie. I love the uniform look from the comics. That blue kind of World War I design. And this figure does a great job of representing the movie's take on it. Certainly a much more accurate shade of blue than what we saw with the Marvel Legends. But they've also taken care to stay true to the little details. Let's look at the face itself. I do see the Chris Pratt likeness, and it's kind of weird saying that looking through my camera at this, because I don't see it as much through the camera, and I think it's because of the lighting. It just has a lot of light exposure. It's zoomed right in. With shadows falling on his face and just holding it in person, the likeness does come through. And even a little bit here and there through the camera. Certain angles. But I will admit on film right now, the likeness doesn't look amazing through the viewfinder. I do appreciate the hair sculpt and paint. Again, Bandai's had trouble with this in the past. They've had this weird golden hair that they've used on some characters. Others just have no paint detail at all. You can see they do have a mix here. We have some light brown for the most part, but also some dark highlights, particularly toward the front. It's not the best hair paint job I've ever seen, but it's a lot better than just having brown plastic. We have some sculpt for the beard. It kind of freaks me out when it comes to the neck because it kind of looks like a burn wound, like a burn scar on the neck, but it doesn't come through a lot. Like I said, I'm pleasantly surprised by the level of detail here. I've acquired a few Bandai products that have really soft sculpts with not nearly enough detail. So it's always a bit of a roll of the dice. In this case, very pleasantly surprised in that regard. Now we'll take a look at Rocket, and you've got pretty much everything Starlord has going for him, just in a smaller form. so the details aren't going to be as crisp, but they're all still there. Here's a closer look. You can see he's got all the same textures and things, just on a little raccoon guy. Looking at the face sculpt, it's good stuff. The colors are looking okay, but I think he looks too much like an actual raccoon for me. He has none of the flair and the spunk that Rocket has. None of those characterizing features that make him Rocket. Just looks like an actual raccoon. It's weird, on the packaging, he's given a cocky facial expression. Here, it's a little too blank. Now for accessories, starting with Starlord, we have the standard Starlord blasters looking really good. I like the paint on these. A few different metallic colors going on, the gold, the silver, and then the darker sort of gunmetal. No complaints with these ones. We also have a pair of these other blasters he uses in the film, which look weirdly similar to the classic Starlord blasters. I remember when I first saw pictures of the Marvel Legends and I saw these blasters, I thought, are those not just the same with like the bottom things taken off? But no, they are distinct, and he does use these in the movie. They just look weirdly similar to the originals. Here they are side by side, and yeah, there's no great difference between them. They have the little nub at the back. They have the gold detail just behind the barrel there. The originals just have this extra little thing at the bottom. One other difference is that the classic blasters have this ergonomic looking grip, whereas the newer ones don't. Now you can store the pistols on the figure itself. He has these hooks on either side of him. And to store them, I really like this. You just put them there and then turn them, and now they're in. And it's a really tight fit. These are not going to fall off. They don't wiggle at all. They are on there. I don't think this works with the newer ones. They just don't fit with the hook. I guess you could do that, but they're gonna fall. And the figure does come with instructions and only shows the originals working with these hooks. Now for hands, you have these kind of loose, open, casual hands. You get a pair of fists and 2 pairs of trigger hands for either of the pistols. And that's it for Starlord. And really, given how similar each pair of blasters looks to the other, I wish we'd have just gotten the classic ones and then a different accessory. Maybe a Zune with a Zune holding hand and headphones, or an alternate head. I think this really needs an ultimate head. Smirk or a laughing head. I just think with a Starlord character, you want more of an expressive face. This stern and serious looking face just doesn't evoke the character for me. And when you think about it, not only do you get the 2 extra blasters, there are hands that go with them too. And I think that plastic just could have been used for something better. Now for Rocket's accessories, he comes with these open hands. And he comes with a set of hands holding tiny pistols. I like that the pistols are sculpted in because they are very, very small. And I don't want to be keeping track of more tiny accessories, so I'm glad these are one unit. But that's it for Rocket too. I think he could have used an alternate head, a screaming face or a smirking face, not just this sad raccoon face he comes with. And with these hands, I don't know if you can use the accessories that came with the previous Figuarts Rocket figure, so he's pretty bare bones as well. Moving on to articulation for Starlord, he cannot look up really at all. I think it's the hair hitting that collar. Does not have very much side-to-side movement, but he can look down a good amount. He's got shoulder articulation, and there is a butterfly joint, but it really doesn't do much. So he can't move his arm forward a ton. We have double-jointed elbows with a swivel at the top of the elbow there. Then we have that classic wrist joint, so you can swivel the hand on it and then orient it in different ways depending on what you need. As usual with Figuarts releases, we have a joint here and here. You can move forward a decent amount. Good amount of back movement, but a lot of gaps. What helps with this is moving the belt. So if you do have that gap, you can just put the belt in front of it. And some good side-to-side movement. Something I'll go over is how this flap thing works, because you can see it's attached to the top, but it goes down past this bit here. So we'll crack them open here. So yeah, it's attached at the top here, but then it comes down and around, so that when you attach the legs on, it's held in place here, which I think is genius. I thought it was just going to end here and just be kind of this loose thing. But no, when you plug this in, it'll stay in place. For the legs, we have a good range of motion forward and back, which you don't usually see. Not a ton of side-to-side movement, but enough to get by. We've got a swivel on the thigh. Double jointed knee. Then we have an ankle rocket that has some movement, but really not a ton. It also goes back and forth. Again, not a huge range of motion. And we have the toe joint. Now, Rocket is very limited in his movement, and I had people calling him basically a glorified accessory, especially when compared to the previous Rocket release. This one is really stripped down. So we have some movement in the head. It almost feels ratcheted, but I'm pretty sure it's a ball joint. It goes side to side an okay amount. We have movement in the arm here, back and forth, and then pretty good range actually, up and down there. The upper arm has a swivel, and so does the wrist, but no elbow articulation. The torso has actually a pretty wide range of motion, but no joint here, just the top one, but still you get everything you need from that. The legs have a joint as well, not a ton of motion, but a decent amount. No knee and no ankle. And finally, the tail is on a ball joint, so you can orient that however you want. I usually end up using it as basically a tripod. Let's see some size comparisons. I'll start with the Marvel Legends Guardians of the Galaxy 2 Rocket and Starlord. I mentioned before that the first Figuarts Starlord was short. I don't own it, but every review said he was way too short. So I am pretty happy to see that this new Starlord is pretty much the same height as Marvel Legends Starlords. Rocket looks taller here. Both of them are kind of leaned back as well because I use the tail as a tripod for both. But size-wise, I think these look good next to Marvel Legends. Here they are next to a pretty recent Marvel Figuarts release. It's the No Way Home Amazing Spider-Man. And here they are alongside the Mafex Endgame Captain America. Quick side note, just for shits, while I had all of them out, I tried some head swaps with the Marvel Legends. And I don't think this guy looks terrible with the Marvel Legends masked head. The neck might sit a little bit high, but it's not bad. And it's actually pretty firm on there. You could tap it and it would fall off. But I think the neck rests pretty well in the big ball joint there. So if you put it on there and leave it, it's not a bad fit. It doesn't aesthetically fit with the color scheme, but it's an option. The Legends rocket head fits on here as well. It's much looser, but you can just rest it on there and pose them around. It's going to fall off if you shake it about, but not bad. And I think the head does look better than the sad raccoon head we got with this one.
I love you.
So that is the SH Figuarts Guardians of the Galaxy 3, Starlord and Rocket. And I'm sorry to say, they're a real mixed bag. On one hand, the Starlord figure itself is really good. I had low expectations having seen reviews of the previous one, but holding him in hand, he's great. Just really looks the part. I had a great time looking at all the tiny intricate details, and he poses pretty good. But he should have an alternate head. I think the second pair of pistols are redundant. I'd rather have seen different accessories or even different gestural hands like maybe finger guns, really anything else. And then you have Rocket, who is fine, but he doesn't have a ton of articulation, and he should also have an alternate head. So I wouldn't say it's a must-get by any means. The people I'd recommend this to are if you just love Starlord and need every version of him. If you have a set of the Marvel Legends and you've repainted them to have the proper colors, then this would blend in better, because otherwise he's going to stand out from the rest of your team. I don't have any of the Legends from Guardians 3, so he's going to be next to my Guardians 2 Marvel Legends, so I think that'll look a little better despite the fact that no one else is in uniform. One shitty thing is that I don't think we're going to see any of the other Guardians from Bandai. I don't think they're going to finish the team or even release one other figure from this movie. I just don't see it happening. I'd be down to get more of them. If they all look this good and had a wider assortment of stuff that they came with, I would finish the team. But as it stands, I think this is all we're going to get. So I don't know, if they go on sale,
I'd say pick them up if you can find them at a decent price. Beyond that, yeah, we have one really great figure that's dragged down by a lot of factors when you look at the whole package. So be sure to give me your thoughts on these guys, whether or not you picked them up. I'm sure a lot of people passed on them for a few reasons. Be sure to check out my other videos. I've posted a few recently, one of them being a review of the Mafex The Batman, another being a look at the initial images of the Mafex Luke Skywalker. I've also got a ton of comparisons. I've compared the Figuarts Spider-Man to the Marvel Legends. You might enjoy that. Otherwise, thank you for watching.